Just like that, we should be live with Mr. DeMarion. So,
hey guys.
Yeah, give us a few people to roll in here. Assuming there wasn't 1,000 people just waiting to come in.
I'm sure they were flooding. It was like a COVID quarantine nightmare. Just hordes of people.
They probably want to hear about Cayuga and like how much you were going to smash them.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely going to catch 25 pounds a day, like so easily.
Yeah. What's up, Jay? How was the sound, Jay? How's the sound for both Destin and myself since you're in here first? Mr. Connor, you weren't first this time, but you were close. Once you guys say the sound sounds good, we'll kind of jump in this. We already got 5,000 live viewers, or 1 to 2. Jay says we're good, so. That's what Luke Duncan always says when he goes live. He's like, "Oh, we got 82,000." Just adds extra 3 zeros. So yeah, yeah. Thanks, Destin, for joining on the stream.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's actually works out good timing because we're catching you before you're going to get real busy. Hopefully, fishing tournaments here. So good time, and hopefully you'll be busy doing winners interviews and top 10 interviews and that kind of stuff going forward.
That would be pretty nice, yes.
Maybe just for a few, because you are an Elite Series rookie, so maybe, and we've only had 2 Elite Series derbies, right? And so we probably has had a chance to meet you because you've had some okay finishes, but you haven't crushed them. You haven't fished in a lot of day 4s yet, so maybe just give the viewers a little bit on who you are. What's up, Tom? A little bit of your path. You don't have to go real depth, but and how you made the elites, I guess.
Yeah. So my name is Destin DeMarion. I'm a rookie. I made the Elite Series this past season through the Eastern Opens. I had fished the Northern and Southerns for a few years until it became the Easterns. My first year, I think I finished 8th, and the points just missed. And then the years in between were kind of more up and down. And then last year, able to finally kind of bring it back together, finish second in the points. And it's, a lifelong dream of mine, so it's pretty cool. I mean, under these circumstances, it's kind of an interesting rookie year, not just,
right.
From the, COVID side, but obviously, just the ups and downs of, hey, we're going to have a tournament, not going to have a tournament kind of thing. So it's been interesting, but I mean, it's the same for all of us, and it's pretty cool that we can look back on this one day and talk about our first season being this crazy one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're from the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania, is that right?
Yeah, I am. I grew up just about an hour north of Pittsburgh, and my wife and I have an apartment. We live on the north side of Pittsburgh now.
You're from there all your life, the Pennsylvania area, or?
For the most part, yeah. We moved there when I was 2 or 3. Nice. I was born in California, Los Angeles, and then all my life where I was coherent, I lived there.
So you should have some big swim bait genetics somewhere in there.
You would think so, but man, I can't get on board with the Palaniks and the Jockumsons with those glide baits. I feel like it's not a very stable tournament strategy. I mean, it's fun as heck to catch them on it, but it's just
for sure.
For me, I just feel like I'm more comfortable.
Super niche when it comes to tournaments.
Oh yeah,
niche as it gets for tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely pop a giant fish in tournament doing it, but it's either feast or famine.
Yeah, so here's a good question from Connor while we're just kind of warming up. He wants to know, what's our favorite bait to throw, both of us? So you can go ahead and go first.
So mine would be a hollow body frog. I'm a big time topwater lover of the exciting bites.
Yeah, I just got on my first good frog bite on Friday the 3rd. I've caught a few fish, but a day that was good. Actually, that recent video we actually just put up on yesterday, where we got in some decent frog fishing. A lot of skipping frogs around docks and small gnats, and just more tactical, not bombing it out there on big flats, but just more tactical, kind of tight quarter. Yeah, and we got this lake has a lot of run in, and any little place we could find a little tiny pipe or a little drain coming in, there'd be 2-3 fish on every one of those.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I like top waters. That's a hard one to pass up. But I think for me, day in and day out, I like to lock a jig in my hand. Like that's.
It catches big fish. I mean, everywhere in the country you can catch them on a jig. It's a good bait. Very versatile.
And I wouldn't say it's like not the most fun, but it's my most confident tournament bait, I guess, would be a good way to think about it. So, cool.
On the flip side of the glide baits, that is a very solid tournament strategy almost everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you call your home waters? Like if like I guess the home waters and like your home tournament waters where you could actually like what would if the Elite Series could visit a stop that could like hold it, what would be that home waters?
So I'm a Lake Erie guy. I'm not too far from there. I went to college in Erie, PA. So, I cut my teeth in like Presque Isle Bay, Lake Erie proper right there. I would say my favorite part of Lake Erie would honestly be that West Basin or even around Buffalo. Like I like those a little bit more even than Erie, PA part of it. So if they could put one there, I'd be pretty excited about it.
And are you still gonna fish that Toyota Series coming up, or the things?
That's tomorrow, I believe. I was actually looking into it. If we would have known about the Cayuga tournament last week, I'm pretty sure I was going to get into it. Okay. Yeah. Cool. St. John's is also kind of like my second home water too, because I got down in Florida, so I've done that for about 4 years. And St. John's in the winter, springtime is where I'm there, and that's kind of become one of my favorite places too.
That definitely has got to help you diversify a little bit, like because that's totally different than home, like in so many ways. That definitely
like flip
round out your game for sure.
Yeah, when I get the opportunity, my buddy I met through fishing the opens, his name is Larry Cahan. He runs a lodge down there, and when I got my captain's license, it's probably about 6 years ago. He said, "Hey, I need guides down here," and I was like, "Shoot, I'm young. Let's jump on this opportunity. It's going to help me, in the future." And I told my wife, I was like, "I bet you a good chance our first tournament will be the St. John's when I make the elites at some point." And sure enough, it was.
So, Ballin21 wants to know what your favorite finesse technique is. Let's say favorite smallie finesse technique, just to keep it interesting.
Man, it is very tough to beat a Ned Rig. I'm a huge proponent of the Ned Rig. I've been throwing on Erie for a long time now.
Okay.
And it's something that I always have tied on when I'm smallmouth fishing. It catches them everywhere.
I've been slow to come around to the Ned, but this year I'm finally starting to catch a few and starting to believe in it. So.
You'll be a believer.
I would say
skeptical too, honestly.
Shot for me is still above the Ned Rig, but
okay.
So let's maybe talk about like your Elite Series has been short. You got to go on basically your home waters. Maybe tell us how. I mean, it was crazy. I don't know. In your 4 years, had you ever seen conditions like that?
No, and I think the reason being is generally I would start guiding about that same time because people wouldn't want to come down to the lodge until it started warming up a little bit because they knew the fishing wasn't as good too. So we'd usually get done with the first Southern Open, and I would kind of take some time and go to Toho and Okeechobee and Harris Chain and stuff, and then get back up to St. John's when it started to guide. And it's generally really tough when it's cold there, especially without the grass. A lot of our eelgrass has been gone since the last hurricane.
Like 2 seasons ago, right? I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think which one. Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah.
2, 3, honestly. But yeah, that really messed a lot of things up and changed the river big time. A lot of different strategies that weren't really factors started coming back into play because, I mean, the river ebbs and flows, like, no pun intended, since it's a tidal river. Like, they've had cycles where the eelgrass is gone and it comes back over the years. So, like, some of the older guys that I fished with at the lodge, older guides, like, they had seen this before. And they said, it's just part of it. It happens. I mean, some people think it's the end of the world, but it'll come back eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I mean, your practice, like, I guess, to walk us through high level, like what you thought you were going to do, what you saw in practice, and then after the 2 days of not competing in 700-mile-an-hour winds, what happened for you in the tournament?
Yeah, so like everybody else, I'm sure they wanted to fish those 2 days if it was better conditions, because leading up to the tournament, we did have a nice warming trend. So that was really setting up the fish to be in a place where, you know, we could all really smash them. They were starting to get in those bedding areas. They're starting to bed a little bit right before that front came in. So going to the tournament, I knew I'd have to have, you know, offshore stuff and other patterns going on just to survive in case the bed fishing, the shallow fishing stuff did not pan out. And for me, I kind of got sucked into the shallow stuff after my last day of practice. I found a lot of really big bed fish, went straight to them. I knew after those fronts it would be a shot in the dark if they'd still be there. I caught a couple of decent sized bucks that were still in the area, but all the females were just not there. And pretty much everyone in those areas completely just bombed. I eventually left, but I wasn't able to really call up that day. And the second day I just was like, I'm just going to run my river stuff up by the ramp and catch 10 or 11 pounds and be fine. That's what I did.
Yeah, cool. Nice. So you said, I think you made a check, right? You made a top.
I did. Yeah, top
45 or 40. Yeah, like solid. And then you took a nice long break. So did you work the Classic?
I did. Yeah, I was at the Classic. I assume you were there. I don't know if I ran into you or not.
No, I wasn't there. No.
No?
I missed the last big event before the Rona hit.
I think a lot of people actually got it after that from the Classic. Because a lot of guys that competed were really sick afterwards.
A lot of people said I got the flu, but at the time, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a week later, we're going to shut the country down. Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure everybody had COVID.
Nice, yeah. So then, here's one question maybe so White Whale says, have you ever fished that reservoir by Sebastian? Is he talking about something you would know?
Sebastian, yeah, that's in Florida. I don't know specifically which, maybe like Stick Marsh or there's another lake that's just full of hydrilla and really good punching lake. What filthy pirates. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at another comment.
Yep, that's the same guy.
So in Florida, I see plaque areas where I'm based out of when I'm down there. But I assume you're talking about like Stick Marsh or one of those ones around there. No, I have not fished that. I fished Garcia, the one they had the MLF event on. I like that one just to screw around. But now it gets a heck of a lot of pressure after the MLF event. So it's a little bit harder. A lot of those lakes, after that, people find out where they are and how good they are, they're just ruined.
So was that have you been to a lot of Classics, or was that one of your first ones, or?
That was the first one since I've only been to two. First one since I was like 14, 15 years old.
That was your first time working the Classic. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. First time working.
What did you think of it as a?
It was pretty cool. It was different, definitely a different experience, obviously, because last time I didn't even go to the expo. I just showed up for the weigh-in and stuff, which was super cool in Pittsburgh. But it was really cool. Got to talk to a lot of people and just got to really experience it from a different perspective, and it was very, very cool. I enjoyed it.
Looks like he's talking about Fellsmere. Is that ring a bell?
Yeah, that's gosh, I can't remember the name of that lake. Sure. It's like back some like really far dirt road. I know what he's talking about. No, I've always wanted to go, but I just never took the time when I was down there.
So what lake do you fish the most? Maybe a little Honey Hill. So that'd probably be more like back by Pittsburgh or is it Erie?
I will tell you about one lake because it's a horsepower restriction. It's kind of close to where I grew up, so I fished it a lot. It's called Lake Wilhelm. Okay. It's like a 20-horse lake, but it is chock full of big largemouths, and it is very much like a southern fishery, and it's definitely helped me kind of brush up on that stuff before, I started fishing more southern events and things. Like, it was one of the ones where I learned how to offshore fish a little bit, and one that I just learned how to really fish for 5 or 6 bites in a day and just fish for big fish.
Nice. Not full of grass either? Is it kind of like a little residue?
Yeah. So there's been a couple PA pros from around here over the years, and a couple times they would take some guys from, down south to Wilhelm, and those guys coined it as the Guntersville of the North. And it is. Okay. It kind of sets up like a little Guntersville. It's got full of milfoil and some other grass too. But it's mostly a shallow little reservoir, stained water, except where the grass is growing real good. You'll have a little bit more clarity. But stump fields, offshore, road beds, all kinds of stuff where you can fish pretty much however you want there. It's cool. Nice. And it's got giants.
Sounds juicy.
It is juicy. It's not the place you're going to go and catch like 50 though. But right. If you go almost every time, you're going to catch at least 5 pounds.
Nice. Can't complain about that. That's where you got to take those swim baits, and that's where you can build your confidence.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be throwing the 12-inchers. I had a bass there spit out a 10-inch gizzard shad once, like still nice. Alive, flicking. It was down his throat. I don't know why I even ate my bait.
So let's talk maybe just a minute or two about how did Eufaula go? I mean, speaking of Guntersville, a lot of people say Eufaula fishes like a TVA lake to some degree. It's not a TVA, but what did you think? Had you been there before?
No.
Okay.
I hadn't. I went there in January, just to pre-fish a little bit, assuming we were going to have a tournament there in April, right. On my way, down to fish St. John's and Chickamauga, where I also pre-fished on my way down. Mm-hmm. Obviously, much different scenario that time of year. The water was up and really stained at that time, but yeah, I don't know if it necessarily fishes like TVA. It's definitely not as like predictable with the current, I think, as like the TVA is. Right. The brush pile thing is a much bigger factor, I feel like, than most of the TVA. So I think I usually try to focus on shallow when I go to those places because I just don't have much experience with the ledge fishing TVA stuff. So when I've done well, like I did well at Chickamauga last year, I just went shallow and caught them. Mm-hmm. And Eufaula, I had some good bites in practice every day, but it was very inconsistent of like when the bites were going to come and where they're going to come. So I just never felt really dialed in on that one. But I did have one good offshore spot that I gave to another guy for day 3, and he ended up catching a couple of his good fish off of it too. And I caught some of my fish second day. We're at a decent day. So I did find one good offshore spot.
Nice. Cool. So that kind of leads us up to this week, which you were probably just about ready to like load the boat and head to Cayuga any day.
Oh, yes.
You got the text. What time did you guys get the text today?
I think it was about 10:22 is what I remember. But I didn't even look at my phone until probably 1 o'clock because I was just out on St. Clair fishing, and I started catching them, so I wasn't really worried about checking my phone at the time. But I kind of knew just after yesterday we hadn't heard, for sure they were going to have a tournament. Something was off, so it's disappointing. I mean, I went pre-fish there, and I've fished there a couple times, but not much in the past. So I was just excited to fish somewhere cool and kind of new. Yeah,
I mean, I think by all accounts, like there was going to flipping grass was going to be a strong pattern there.
Oh, yeah.
And most. I mean, would you consider yourself like do you like fishing grass? Is that like in your wheelhouse?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely a grass fisherman. I grew up. All these places around me have a lot of grass, including Presque Isle Bay and Wilhelm and Pymatumi is another really good lake around me too. And they all are very much milfoil lakes.
So you're right at home with a 3/4 ounce weight and a creature or a jig and just searching out fish in the grass type thing.
Yeah, I don't mind that, but I'm more of a moving bait guy if I can. So if I can, I probably would have put a crankbait in my hand if it was going to happen at Cayuga and just went with it the whole time kind of thing.
Cool. So of the two, was it Champlain and St. Lawrence, they still feel like are gonna happen, right? That's what like.
Let's hope so. Fingers crossed, right?
Right. Which one of those are you most excited about, or which one have you had more experience on, or what are your thoughts on those two?
Yeah, I've definitely had more experience on not Thousand Islands, Champlain. I fished way more tournaments there. I haven't fished too many at Thousand Islands, but I'd say I'm more excited about that one just because I've never fished a tournament out of Waddington too, that far up the river. So just getting to fish new stretches of the river that I hadn't really done. So I went pre-fished. It was really cool, and I feel like it's going to be a fun tournament. Hopefully we have it.
Mm-hmm.
It might be kind of in that post-spawny weird time, but that place has got so many good fish. I mean, you're going to find them in a feeding mode somewhere, and it's going to be a fun tournament.
And that immediate post-spawn time can, I mean, if you like to fish, I don't know if you like to fish shallow smallies, but that can be a good time to catch bigs. I mean,
100%.
We get a lot of press, but there's usually a handful of guys that do really well in that tournament, not necessarily fishing super deep. So.
Oh yeah, and I think this time of year you can probably get away with it too.
That's a good question. Connor wants to know: do you fish braid in wood, or fluoro, or braid to fluoro around wood?
So usually fluoro. I feel like braid digs in a little bit too much. Yeah, I don't think I would ever really fish braid in wood. Mostly just heavier grass situations.
It's kind of where I'm at too. Like punching is like the one time I like braid. There's something about fluoro that I really like the feel and just am comfortable with. And anytime I'm around hardcover, I like fluoro because I feel like you can work it through better and like you can snap it off, and you like once it catches in like, braid, it's like it's stuck. It's like you either pull it in or you like go in and get it. Like there's no like.
Or you can definitely feather it a little bit and hopefully not snag it up as bad. I agree with that.
Do you do any braid to fluoro for baitcasters?
Yeah, that's you Minnesota guys, like through and through. You guys love that stuff.
I mean,
everybody I've met from Minnesota is like the only people I ever see do it. But I do it a little bit, not a ton. When I do it, I feel like I usually when I'm flipping, I really have a hard hook set, and I probably shouldn't have as hard a hook set. Like I should probably ease up a little bit, but I generally will break it at the knot.
Do you want to say hi? No. Yeah, same with me. Like I start the day like leaning into them and trying to be good, and then I get excited, and all of a sudden it's I can't like I don't know, like between not tying the perfect knot, not being able to maybe fish a soft rod, and not being able to kind of get that lean down, I usually end up breaking a good fish off and regretting it. Now spinning rods though, braided fluoro all day. Like that's almost all
of mine. Yep, all of mine are braided fluoro. I have one spinning rod a reel that I'll keep with straight fluoro for like shad wraps and stuff, but that's about it.
Yeah. What's up, Brian? Yeah, thanks. Make sure you guys are liking and sharing so we can get a few more people in here.
Brian.
So you were out on St. Clair today. So were you scouting? I mean, pre-scouting for the elite event or fun fishing or?
Yeah, scouting. That is somewhere I don't have much experience. I fished a couple as a co-angler, and it's probably been 9 years since I've been there. So obviously a lot's changed. I'd never taken a boat out there, so I really want to just get comfortable with areas and really run around and see, where things were. And it was productive. I covered pretty much all the water that we can fish since we're only in U.S. waters as of now.
Okay. So how much fishing did you do today versus just driving around and scouting?
Compared to the last 2 days, I did more fishing today because yesterday and the day before, I did a lot of just driving, looking around, seeing where the grass was growing, that kind of stuff. Not as much fishing, but today I did fish a good bit, and it was a much better day. Like the other 2 days, it was kind of tough, but today definitely a little better.
Had some fun today.
Yeah, exactly. I was able to catch a few. It helps.
Got rid of some of that anxiety and stress and. Cayuga, don't care. I'm setting the hook. Like
exactly. Right after I saw the text, I started catching them goose. I was like, whatever.
Nice. That should be a good derby for sure. Like that.
That'd be everybody's gonna catch that one.
White Whale wants to know how do you? So you were kind of talking about prepping for waters you don't have experience on. He wants to know how do you prep for? You have a lot of experience fishing. like let's say maybe Champlain or something like that, where you're fairly comfortable and familiar with the water?
See, I think that's the place where I'm still trying to like dial that in pretty well, because like people say, having a lot of experience somewhere can honestly hurt you at times, because you try to fish history and you try to fish, you know, what you did well doing before. So I try to like not get sucked into that as much, because I mean these fisheries are dynamic and they're changing a lot. So I just try to like do stuff where I know I hadn't done it before, just to try to find other patterns and things. And usually I always have what I did before to fall back on. I'm trying not to keep that as like a crutch. You know, it's just like, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do, you know, what worked 5 years ago.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, that's something I have tried to get better at, as even just fishing regionally in tournaments, is like checking the stuff that you used to fish in practice can be like just super time consuming, because like you romanticize and you almost spend more time there because you're like, oh, they should be here, and you're like, instead of just pulling a few casts and checking it with like 1 or 2 baits, you're like, oh well, maybe if I throw a Carolina rig, maybe if I throw a crankbait, maybe if I dead stick, like, or maybe they're over here. Like, instead of just like fishing the moment, it can really like sap up your practice, where you could really be just taking it in for sure. And then you can back in the tournament, you're driving by like, oh, I'm gonna go fish that old stump, or I'm gonna go fish that little point. So
yeah, exactly. I think it's good to just build upon what you already know and spend all your time really doing that, and you'll be more productive overall. But once in a while I do get sucked into that, and then I just try to be conscious of it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to find the balance. This is some of everything, right? Because some of them spots were good for a reason, right? So
yeah, exactly. I mean, fish are certain places for a reason, and a lot of times they revisit the same places year after year.
Yeah. What's up, Lunkers and Lures? What's up, Mad X?
Yo.
Connor says, is there a big difference between a 7.3 and a 7-foot rod? What are your thoughts?
To me, there is. Yeah, absolutely. When I'm doing stuff where I've generally got a lot of line outs, I want to have a little bit more rod to jam them. With a shorter rod, I don't feel like you can. I don't know, like there's just not enough flex, and I just don't feel like I can jam them as well far away with a 7-foot rod as I can with like a 7.3. And even for like close distance flipping, I want to have a little bit more rod than a 7-footer too.
And I think actually, like, it's more than you think, because on a hook set, you're actually taking double the line, because you've got like you're 3 inches closer to them, and back here you're 3 inches. You're actually, I think, getting 6 inches of swing.
There you go.
So like, I think I
never thought about it like that. That's a good point.
I always say you want to fish the longest rod you can that doesn't impede the accuracy or your comfort level fishing the lure or the spot or the target. Like I will drop down to like a 7-foot rod on docks sometimes when I'm really tight and I feel I'm a little more accurate. But a lot of time, I mean, if my preference, I'd rather fish my 7.4 jig rod day in and day out. Like, if I can get away with it, I will still use it, but I like keep that 7-footer for really tight, precise stuff.
100%. I'm of the same mindset, and I think like how tall you are really is a part of that too. So if you're pretty short, like a 7-foot rod is going to be similar to what a 7.3 would be to me. If you're shorter, like I'm about 6'1", so like a 7.3 rod isn't that long. Like if I'm fishing a bait, like I'm not generally hitting the water if I'm working it or something, because I've got enough room between the water and you know the tip.
But there's something like 7.4. I feel like I can still skip pretty accurately, and I'm like 7.6. It starts to get a little clumsy for me trying to like roll cast, and like it doesn't seem like much. 2 inches is like. That 7.3, 7.4 is about the break point for a lot of people, I think, where you start to and then I think like that's like typically square bill rods are like 7-footers, because you're doing a lot of roll casts and accurate and like trying to hit stumps and, you know, spinner baits and stuff where you're fishing the bank. But then when you get out and you're casting on like the deep cranking like you would have done at Cayuga, you're going to probably want a 7.6 rod or an 8-footer when you're just, you know.
It's good for long channel too.
Yeah. Same with my frogs. Like I've got a 7.3 frog rod, and I've got a 7.9 frog rod.
Oh, wow.
One is for target fishing, and one is for like Mississippi River and like Leech Lake and fishing the rice, where you're just like
chuck it back in there.
Chucking it, like, and then you throw it as far as you can, and like they eat it 30 yards away, and you can still get the hook set into them, right? So
that's true. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I don't usually fish too many situations like that, but yeah, I understand why you use a longer one, because most of the time I do use like a 7.3 frog, but I'm usually not chucking it back in those rice fields that far.
So there's your sneaky tip. If you ever come to the Mississippi, up in the upper pools, or if you ever end up on like Leech Lake or like these big like massive grass, the long rod is the key for that.
Beautiful. I put that in the memory bank.
So Bill said, "What's up?" He just got back from catching jaints off ledges. Where's that at?
I love that one.
He said Ned Rig was the deal on the ledges.
Ooh, must have been pressured or no current.
Yeah, and we were just, Bill, you probably didn't see it, but Destin was just saying like he's a Ned believer. He's been using it since before it was cool, is what he was saying, I think.
Oh yes. Well, I was friends with a lot of Midwestern guys, so they like turned me on to it really early before it was ever hot. And I started messing around with it here and really started to dial it in and like it a lot. But I haven't done it much on the ledges, but I know it's been pretty hot lately. I think some of the guys on that FLW tour event caught them on it. So,
well, sure. I'm sure when the current wasn't ripping, guys catching fish for sure. Sycamore said he didn't get the notification going live. Maybe you gotta you got the bell and all notifications. You gotta make sure that's all checked, Sycamore. White Whale says, what was gonna be your go-to baits for Cayuga? I think you said cranks, but maybe
we covered that one. Crank, so deep crank bait for sure.
What kind of what is your go-to deep crank for that kind of lake?
So like a Berkeley dredger, so like a 17.5 range usually. I don't know about this time of year. This is kind of early for them to go there, so they could still be fairly shallow in the grass. You might not even be able to reach them with the crankbait until they get a little bit deeper out there. But I mean, you go with like a little bit shallower, like 10.5 or something like that too in the grass.
You got any particular color you think is hot on those New York lakes?
So yeah, definitely New York and just up north in general. Perch imitations. I mean, anything. So ICAST is coming up. Dredgers are going to have the new HD colors, so they've got like the really realistic perch colors. So that would be a pretty good one to use up there. They've also got alewives up there, so anything kind of that would mimic like a bait fish. So your shad kind of patterns would mimic the alewive as well.
It doesn't seem like intuitive, but up in Minnesota, even though we have clean water, I still like that parrot color, that blue and chartreuse.
Yeah, sometimes those like colors don't make sense, or they just like to eat them. I don't know why.
Cool. I don't know.
Nice.
YouTube's trying to hold me down, guys, not sending out the notifications. Bill said he was up in Maine. That's where he was catching them on Ned. So.
Ooh, ledge fishing up in Maine. Interesting.
Said they wouldn't touch the big worm, the jig, or the crank. Those are the worst kind of fish.
Oh yeah, I'd rather catch them on the fun, heavy-duty stuff too.
So you kind of said you're like Ned is like your secret weapon. Like maybe give us some tips, or maybe break down your setup. And do you do different for smallmouth? Kind of run us through like what works for you and what your favorite setups are and baits for those.
Yeah, so generally when I'm throwing Ned Rig, I'm throwing it on a 7-foot medium spinner rod. I want
that Abu or what kind of?
Yeah, Abu. So like I throw mostly my spinning stuff is like super high end Abu, Fantasista Premiers, the really really light sensitive stuff. Because anything where it's such a feel, so the Ned, the drop shot, that kind of stuff, that's where I really want to pay a little bit more money for my setups. So like my spinning setups, a really good flipping stick. There's a couple of rods I would definitely splurge on, but the spinning stuff that's really your sensitive rods, yeah, I would splurge on those a little bit. So like we were talking, Braid to Fluoro, I'm generally throwing on 8 pounds if I can get away with it. Sometimes 10 if it's a little bit more, snaggy and abrasions and stuff. I might throw it on 10 and I can get away with it. But I use the owner blockheads. They've got the new weedless one out that just came out too. But I also get some custom ones made with some owner super needle points. I got a guy in New York that makes them for me. His name's Joe, and he makes me some pretty sick Ned heads that pretty much if you hook the fish, he's not getting off. It hooks him on top of the mouth every time. We've really dialed that in. Me and my buddies have been working on that Ned head for probably the last 3 years, just changing things. But that's generally my stuff.
You don't got any of those heads handy for show and tell, do you?
Yeah, I might have one. I'm trying to think. No, they're out of my boat right now. I've got some of the blockheads. So those are the blockheads. Those are the weedless ones.
People can actually buy those. So
yeah, you can buy these ones. My custom ones aren't for sale yet.
let me go for a second. I want to put you. Oops, just wait.
There you go. Yeah, those are the owner, the blockheads. Those are new. They just came out. They're just the weedless ones. So, I mean, places where there's more weeds, got more snags in the rocks and stuff, it's a little bit better. You're not maybe going to lose as many. But generally speaking, I throw on the open one just because unless it's real weedy or there's real heavy cover, most of the time I'm not fishing that. But I just want to be able to not have the plastic, inhibit the hook set. So that's why I throw the open hook a lot of the time.
And did you say you go braid to Fluoro for your Ned?
I do. Yeah, braid to Fluoro. So I'll run like a 10-pound braid with a leader of like 8 to 10 pound gamma edge, especially because it's abrasion resistant. I like that.
And then how long a leader do you like to run?
Depends on how clear the water is, honestly.
12-foot lead? I mean, what is your rule of thumb?
Yeah, most of the time I would say.
Short leader guy, 12?
Yeah, 10 to 12 in the clear water situations. If it's not that clear, I don't really worry about the length as much. If it's more stained water, I don't think they're going to see it. In places where they can see 20 feet, yeah, it matters. I mean, if you guys remember that tournament at Mille Lacs where Seth kind of came onto the scene, he was throwing like a 20-foot leader or something crazy. So there's like no braid in the water basically when he was dropping on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is not the visibility, because I think if it's 3-4 feet, they're not going to see it. But I mean, if you're casting a swim bait and you're kind of like right in the next trail, but for like a Ned or a shaky head, like I don't think that's important. I think it's the fact that like if I'm going to retie it a bunch of times, I don't have to retie the leader so often. So
yeah, that is another reason I do it too. I like to go a little longer.
It's like 2 big pulls off the spool with my arms, and that's about what I run. So that's probably
especially with a drop shot if you're doing that, because I mean that eats up so much of your line if you break off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we saw that you had 3/16. Is that a go-to weight, or is that just what you had handy?
Yeah, 3/16 is probably the one I use the most. I like the quick fall on it. I mean, there's days where they don't want that; they want something slower. But I do like the quick fall on the Ned. It gets down there quick and it keeps it on the bottom.
That's a little heavier than average, I think, than most people.
It is. But it's probably because I fish deep a lot, on Erie and stuff. So I generally try to go heavier. It's hard to keep your bait on the bottom, especially with wind and the waves, if you're not throwing a heavier head.
So what's different for you when you're largey versus smallie fishing with a Ned?
So I don't generally fish for largemouths with a Ned a ton. But I would, I go with a little bit bigger worm. I mean, you can flip it in the grass, like the old jig worm kind of situation area. So, like, the bigger, the 4-inch, 5-inch, even that giant one now they got, like 6 or so. So those are the things I would do when I'm largemouth fishing, especially if I'm ledge fishing a lot of times, and throw a bigger one. I mean, generally bigger baits, bigger bites. I do believe in that.
And then, so I guess, did you say what baits do you like for smallies?
What's that on the net?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just like the generic one. I mean, I just want like a straight tail, like just fat kind of worm. So Berkeley may or may not be working on one here soon.
Are you more of a traditional plastic, not a elastic guy?
I like the elastic. I mean, that was the first one, and I do use that. I've honestly tried a lot of them, and I have a bunch in my box, so I like rotate through them just to see if one's working better than the other throughout the day. But It's hard to say. I mean, there's definitely situations where one works better than the other, but it is nice that floats.
Do you play around with colors a lot, or do you have a couple of select colors?
I do. I try to play around with colors a lot more. There's a couple that I like definitely confident in, just like any of your like goby, perch, bait fish, craw imitations, like just like the generic ones. I'm confident in those, but I will try to play around with some of the crazy ones once in a while, like the more gaudy ones, the chartreuse ones, and the black and the pink and that kind of stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I found myself liking the Tickler Z a lot. That's for whatever reason.
It's a good bait. I do use that one.
In my head, because it's got a little tentacles, it makes me feel more confident than just the TRD. So
yeah, hey, this is something different than other people are throwing. There you go.
Yeah.
These fish haven't seen as many, maybe.
Connor, have I ever fished a river by St. Cloud? I think one time I put my boat in near like Annandale, Clearwater area, Clear Lake there, but I haven't really fished by St. Cloud. But cool. All right, nice. So what else has been happening around you? Like, so if people live in your area, Pennsylvania, what's the bite been like? What should people be doing if they're not catching fish in the Northeast? What do you think's going on? What's the best bet?
So like Erie is kind of in that tough in-between phase right now, like between the spawn, post-spawn, summer pattern. So they're kind of scattered. I mean, there's still fish they're in all three phases. So it's kind of, I would say, more jumping around instead of just milking an area more so right now is a good strategy. For the largemouth bite, they're mostly getting their summertime patterns here. So you've got the bluegill spawn, going on right now. Something good to target for largemouth around here too. And the topwater bite's starting to get good at the rivers and stuff around here too. Little buzz baits and poppers and stuff.
Nice.
The Three Rivers, infamous.
Do you fish the Three Rivers?
A little bit, not a ton. I like it, honestly. You know what you're getting. I mean,
right.
Mostly small fish, but it can be fun. Like you usually catch a lot of fish. They just might not be giants. But you can get some decent ones there.
It's like every time you go, you're like on the old episode of City Limits with Ike, right? Like where
I remember that one. I think he got really mad in that one, like broke his rod or something.
Shocker.
Yeah, I think he broke off, like they were in an outflow or something, and he like broke his rod.
If you could just have all the abus that he's broken, you'd have a lot more.
Yeah, you could feed a family for like 2 years.
Cool. So you said you're a big frog guy. What's your? I mean, are you a popping frog, a walking frog? You fish them all. What are some of your favorite frogs?
I definitely fish them all, but I am a more of a walking frog guy. I like to kind of walk it in place. I like to skip it around and stuff, and I do throw both. I just definitely throw the walking one more. I feel like I can keep it in place pretty well, unless I'm fishing heavy or vegetation, like where the popping's going to really help a lot. I feel like I can do like a more subtle approach with the walking one and get some good bites doing it. What do you?
Yeah, I like the walking as well. There are times the popping is definitely good, but I feel like even in that vegetation, there are times when the popping catches stuff too much where you can't work it as well as you'd want to.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a little more niche. I know a lot of people prefer it, but for me, I prefer the walk-in frog, and I feel like the hookups I don't know. Yeah, I like to really walk it and let it sit there and dance more than chug it. So.
Me too.
What kind of frogs are your favorite?
So I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I really like the live target frogs since they came out a long time ago. I mean, they look realistic. Obviously, the fish isn't really seeing that. It's on top, but there's something about them. They skip really well. They're pretty consistent. They've got good hooks on them. I like those copper or the live target frogs. They're pretty good frogs. I like the 65 size, the best, like the kind of medium, big kind of one.
And they're the live target a little bit wider than like a Spro, right? They're a little bigger.
It is.
Yeah.
It walks real easy too. It's a good frog all around.
I like the Terminator quite a bit. Like
yeah, a lot of people have said they like that
one. It's got a good hook in it. I got a couple that I'm trying to fix. The only negative on them is the weights. Like I feel like that's the downfall of most frogs is the weights falling out of the bottom.
Yeah.
And then, but speaking of the live target, I do have like these are my OG favorite frogs. Were these evolved frogs?
Oh, cool.
And these guys were up in your neck of the woods at one time.
Really?
I've heard of them. Yeah, at least in that part of the country.
It sounds kind of familiar.
But they're very. I mean, they look similar to the live target.
They do. Yeah, they look very similar.
I've got a bunch of them over here that I'm fixing. But I like the fact that these particular ones are super soft and they've got like a big hook in them. And here's a hack for you guys. Like when the weight falls out on this style, I feed a Senko, so a real dense, like salty, like heavy plastic into where that hole is, and then I glue it in and then trim it flat. And that works pretty good to bring some life back to a frog that is missing its weight.
That's cool. You just taught me something. That's a good little trick.
It doesn't work for like the Terminator that has like a molded cavity, right?
Gotcha.
Where these ones have, that's like where the weight is a hole. So like you can feed it in there and like cut it off and get a little weight. So I need to like find some kind of lead that I can smash into that shape and glue those in. But
the live target one's the same as that evolved one that you have.
All right. Nothing like aggressive slop fish, 100%. Like on the Mississippi River here, you'll find like the key is finding like that good grass with the clear or the black water coming through it, and then like duckweed over that mat.
That's what I hear.
They'll school up, and like you'll be like working your frog through there, and one will be like whoosh, and like before you can even move it again, one's coming from the other side trying to like.
Oh my gosh, that's so much fun.
Schooling under the duckweed on your frog. It's unbelievable.
Well, no wonder you like frogs so much. That sounds incredible.
So Sycamore says, what color belly is best for a frog? What do you think?
I think that really depends on what's going on, at the time of year. So you've got mayfly hatches, you've got, brim spot. When the mayflies are hatching, I think that's when a brown frog is a little bit better. I mean, if you hear some of like the better froggers talk, they say, like an Ishmael is going to say, a black frog on, I believe it's cloudy days, and a white frog on sunny days, or maybe that's reversed. Yeah. But he's like, yeah, I wouldn't look too much into it. And generally I don't, but I do mix it up a little bit just to see if it makes a difference. So I will use like a chartreuse belly sometimes, especially around like the brim spawn. And I think it makes a difference sometimes, at least in my head.
Yeah, I would say that like when in doubt, like if I don't really know, if I don't have any strong hunch about forage or history, I'm usually going to start with a black.
Yeah, it's probably the most universal.
Can't go wrong with a black. It may not always be the best one, but I feel like that's a good place to start. If I'm getting hits and they're not eating it, that's when I start to like rotate. But I mean, if I see shad, like in the water, I'm going to go to white. If I see like they really feel like they're keen on the bluegills, I'm going to go on a brown or a more of a natural color probably. But yeah, I mean, to me, black is a really safe place to start, at least for me, at least where I fish most. So.
Oh, exactly.
Corey Greathouse says it seems
frog
like
every show.
Every show. Well. Frogs are, and this guy likes popping frogs himself. So, that's a good question. Ball Toy says, "Why don't companies mold over the weight?" That's a great idea for a frog. Like it should be completely encapsulated. Why would I want it to ever come out? We should make
them because they couldn't make any money.
Yeah, because they've done a lot of advancements to like. Protect the nose of frogs, and those last longer than they used to, the way they like weld them in and all that kind of stuff. Skirts are pretty good, and they've got better venting holes. But yeah, it seems like the downfall is either a pike eats it or the weight comes out.
Yeah, pike are pretty hard on a frog.
So Corey Greathouse is trying to get inside information for his fantasy team. As a fantasy, you know if you're fishing for largemouth or brownfish at the St. Lawrence.
Oh, brownfish, 100%. I think if you're fishing for largemouth there, in the past you could win there, but not anymore. If you're fishing for largemouth, you're fishing for a check.
But being from Florida, you're only in Florida, what, like 30% of the year?
Yeah. Yep.
So I hear a lot of people talk about the Jackal Gavacho. I have not tried that one, but I've heard a lot of
Me either. I've not tried that one either. I like to try to get those new ones and mess with them a little bit too, so I might have to mess with that one.
Yeah, so Tom says a shot of silicone usually seals up any holes. But I will say that what I'm looking for here when I put the Senko in there is I'm looking for the weight to keel it correctly. Like I'm trying to replace it with some heavy plastic. So PSA, there are no fish in the St. Fleur River. Yep, we'll keep telling ourselves that. Yeah, that's the place I definitely want to go fish. It seems really cool. I would love to get up there.
Have you been? So I assume you have not been.
No. Well, the closest I've got is Baitcaster, Michigan, which is not very close.
They're pretty good up there, I assume. It seems like all those random bays in Michigan are just ridiculously good.
I would love to go back there now because when I had a divisional tournament there, I feel like I was a little green when it came to smallmouth, and I feel like I would definitely be much more comfortable now. Even though I did have a pretty good line through swim bait bite going in practice that kind of evaporated on me during the tournament. But
Not the 10-inch glide bait for smallmouth?
No, that was before glides were even a thing that I knew about. So
glide baits are sweet. I mean, you'll see some giant fish. Like, it'll at least show you the fish. That's the cool thing.
Yep. All-time favorite 1.5 crank, non-sponsored.
1.5? I mean, I've got a bunch of them from back in the day, the original, the 1.5s. The old KVDs.
Yeah.
Katawachi special.
Nice. Yeah, that was amazing. I would say for me, I like that little EMA square bill. That's a good one. Rich says, what are your thoughts on Lake Minnewaska? We have a lot of mini Wa type sounding lakes, so I have to think about which one. I think this one's
going to make a joke there.
It's in Minneapolis. Like we have mini Wawa, mini Washta, mini Waska, mini I have to think about which one we're talking about. It's a good lake. It's like a little mini Lake Minnetonka. So
my thoughts are it's a cool name.
Yeah. There's a lot of good lakes in that area too, Connor, for sure.
Well, you guys are spoiled. I mean, Minnesota is just an amazing bass fishing lake or state, not a country. Maybe they'll
Have you been to Minnesota?
I fished one time. I fished with Austin and Mille Lacs, and it was pretty dang sweet.
With Felix?
Yeah.
Yeah. What time of year did you go?
October.
Okay,
So primo.
Yeah. Were you guys just dragging Kitex all day or what?
We did do some of that and then dropping on them too.
Sure.
He caught one that was almost 7. It was pretty sweet. I caught 2 that were 6, and he caught one almost 7.
It can be pretty, this time of year, it gets pretty tough because of the fishing pressure and
I'm sure.
Just they get that lake gets hammered like no other lake around the spawn because it's big, but it's not so big that almost all of them are getting hammered and caught.
Yeah, and they're smallmouths on beds.
Yeah.
They're stupid.
So I think post spawn on Mille Lacs is extra tough because they literally got raked over the coals physically by the process of spawning and by the anglers, and they're just and then when the fall it starts to get good, they start to wad up, and then it starts to get really good again. So
well, I don't know what that's like. Presque Isle Bay, where I guide, is really, really hot in the spring, and those fish, once they get on beds, probably get caught 30 times before they get off the bed, if not more. There's 300 people in a 3,500 acre bay, 300 boats.
Yeah. Coy said he watched that video, said it was amazing. So did you have a video of that on your YouTube channel?
I I wasn't bed fishing, but I was probably one of the jerkbait ones where I was cracking on.
I wonder if you was did you film when you're on Mille Lacs?
No.
Okay. All right, you must be talking about that. Okay. Oh, so you talked about guiding on Erie and St. John's, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume are you still doing a lot of guiding with fishing the Elite Series, or is that kind of slowed down, or where's that at for you?
Well, when we had this hiatus, obviously everything was shut down for a while, but Pennsylvania reopened fishing guide trips. I think early May maybe. So I was able to crank out a decent bit of trips here while we were off, which helped. I mean, didn't really have much else to do on the weekends.
Nice. So how do people when you have breaks, do you have a website or just slide into your DMs on social, or how do you book trips for guiding?
Yeah, I mean, people DM me or just, look at my website. It's just my DESTINDEMARION.com, and I have a guiding tab on it.
Okay.
My guide service is called Big Fat Bass Guide Service.
Original. I like it.
Oh, yes.
And so whether they want to look in Florida in the spring or in the summer through fall on Erie, that's where to look you up.
Yeah, exactly. So usually I'm at the St. John's. We just had a baby this year, so I wasn't there. And with the Elites, I couldn't guide there until after February. But I'm usually down there from late January, February till beginning of May, and that's when the fishing picks up at Erie. I usually get one home and guide there the rest of the year.
Nice. So how far from shore do you go out on Lake Erie? Sycamore wants to know.
So I'll go a long ways away from where I would launch, but generally, just the way the lake sets up, you're never more than a mile or so offshore, off the physical shore. You can always see the shore because of just how the tapers are off the bank and stuff.
So once you get out past a mile or two, it just kind of.
Yeah, then you're walleye fishing out there and trolling in 100 feet.
Kyle wants to know, what would your guys' favorite technique to use during the summer on grassy lakes with almost no hard structure? Sounds like Cayuga.
There is some hard structure there, though.
A little bit, but I mean, not a ton, but.
Yeah, not a ton. Mine be cranking grass lines, honestly. That's what I like to do at natural lakes and on weed lines and stuff. I like to crank them. I feel like you catch all sizes of fish, but you do target big fish too. I feel like you do get some good bites too.
Walk us through, how do you attack grass lines with a crankbait? Are you paralleling? Are you 45ing? Are you feeling your way around? Are you break down how you do that?
Yeah, usually I'll graph it. So you'll have a hard grass line, and then you might have a little bit of grass down lower that's not growing as high. That's generally where you're going to be, hitting your crankbait off or ripping it, and that's where those fish are going to react most of the time in those situations. So most of the time I'm paralleling it. Sometimes I'll 45 it, but I'd say most of the time on a hard grass line, I'm gonna parallel it.
Sure. Are you just searching? Or are you graphing and looking for key stretches and coming back and hitting those kind of key areas?
I'd say it depends on how much time. So with the Elite Series, that's been one of the biggest transitions, is only having 2.5 days of practice. With the Opens, you could practice for as long as you wanted, honestly. So I'd usually spend 5-6 days. So if you don't have that much time, you're just going to kind of try to pick out good grass lines, just go, because you need to get some bites to get some confidence, and you can kind of hone in on them that way. If I have more time, I really want to graph and dissect and pinpoint where I want to spend my time.
And are you Fluoro cranking 10 pound, 12 pound?
Yeah.
What's your cranking?
Yeah, 10 and 12, depending on how some of those places where the grass is, you've got the zebra mussels on it, it'll cut up your line real bad. So I would go more with the 12 in those scenarios. Maybe just use a little bit deeper crankbait if I need to get a little deeper, because the 10 is going to get your crankbait deeper. But those zebra mussels on the weeds might cut up your line, and it just might be more advantageous to go with 12 in that situation, 12 or even 14.
Yeah. I would say, for me, a couple of years ago, I would be fishing inside turns and key spots with like a jig worm or something like that, or a drop shot or a jig. But now, like, I've really gotten into flipping grass. So I think, Kyle, I would get a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce tungsten Texas rig or a jig, and I'd try to find those schools flipping the grass. I feel like that's a really underrated. And the thing I like about it is with the movement of electronics, where everybody feels like they are like a combination of Mark Rose and Jason Lambert, and they're out there scanning, looking for all these like rocks and sweet spots and transition areas. There's less and less guys that are willing to just roll up their sleeves and put in the work and fish for them. So that's kind of my take on it. Corey's got an interesting question. He said, I fished a lake last year and smashed them on a frog against reeds on an overcast day. The next day it was sunny and hot, gone, couldn't catch them on anything in that 3-foot zone. What do you think? What do you think happened?
Are you sure they didn't just go? You said you caught them on against the reeds. Are you sure they just didn't go up in the reeds more because of the sun? I mean, they could have done that, or they could have just pulled off. If the reeds were like not necessarily close enough together to really have a canopy and stuff, like they might have not went in there. But if there's like you got grass close by, they might just went out to whatever grass or whatever is available if it's not thick enough.
Yeah. I would say it kind of depends. Like also wind typically is a big deal for reeds, in my opinion. Even if it's just a little breeze, that really helps a lot. If there is thicker reeds or there's like clumps of grass in the reeds where they'll make little mats, that can be really good. But I would guess that some of them went shallower and some of them pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, typically on a reed edge like that, I think they are like they don't live there. I don't think it's very like a feeding type thing. They get up and they eat there. They don't live there, in my experience. How far do they travel? I guess it depends on the lake, but
yeah, depends on what's available to them, how close deep water is.
Several hundred yards easily.
Yeah, I mean it's nothing for them to swim that far.
A football field or two, like easily. Cool, good questions, guys. Thanks for the questions.
Mm-hmm. Firing them off, I like it.
So, were you scheduled to go to ICAST this year?
Yeah, I'm sure I would have went to ICAST. Obviously, we found out pretty early, but I'm sure I would have been there. Obviously, it was the Cayuga week too, so I mean, we had to reschedule that too.
Maybe scheduled they knew it was already not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But did you go? Have you been to ICAST in the past?
No, so I was kind of looking forward to that. It was going to be cool. Have you went yourself?
Nope, never, not been. I know some guys, say they missed it, and other guys are like,
yeah, good riddance.
Like Seth, I know is like, thank God, that is like the least of my element ever. So, but
yeah, I could see him saying that.
So Brian Waterman says, how long do you need to let a spot rest before you refish it?
I mean, that's variable, but I would say I'd come back maybe 20, 30 minutes.
I would say that's a good minimum. That doesn't mean they'll be there in 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I think 20 minutes is a good minimum. I mean, you could come back. I've said, I've had places that every time you come back, you get a couple bites. And I've had times that once you like run through them in the morning, you could check it 6 more times and you'll not get another bite.
Yeah.
I think a lot has to do with, did you just disperse them, or were they only there because of a bait deal or a shade deal or a wind deal or a current, right? There's a lot of factors that why were they there.
Sometimes you can just beat the crap out of them too.
Yeah. Swim Jig 50 says, do you abandon flipping in windy conditions?
That might be better for you.
It depends on the wind. A little breeze and a decent is good, but there is a point where it riles up the water, and I think it becomes counterproductive. Well, then you're probably better off reaction to strike horizontal baits at some point. At some point, if it gets wavy enough, you're probably better off going with a spinner bait or a swim jig or a chatterbait, or or you might just have to duplicate what you did in a different area where you're not getting hit maybe as directly as hard with the wind. So is there anything that any of the companies you work with that are working on that is going to be exciting at the virtual ICAST that people should be watching for? Or?
Well, I did mention those the new colors, the dredgers, the HD colors. That's going to be cool. Just more realistic colors. They've got a couple new sizes on the Frit side, which has been a popular cold water bait. Obviously, they've got a little bit bigger one, a little bit smaller one. So like the Biggie and the Junior. And I'm obviously about the high-end spinning stuff. So the Abu, the Xenon is coming out. I think it's like almost $500, but it's pretty freaking nasty. It looks pretty nasty.
So that's a $500 rod from Abu?
Real.
Real, okay. So
yeah.
It's like
it's super light.
Type
magnesium.
Type.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, I think it's like the JDM kind of reel.
Brian says, what's your favorite way to fish in the setup? Would it have been the frog setup we talked about? Or?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a frog. It's like a frog, hollow belly, 50-pound braid, and a 7.3 heavy with a fast gear ratio. Reel like a 7.3 to 1 STX probably would be.
Okay. Connor says, what would you do if you show up on a tourney day and none of the conditions are the same as practice?
Panic box.
Grab the Ned Rig.
Just sometimes, like, you just go fishing. There's been times in tournaments where like everything just falls apart, and like, well, let's just kind of start practicing again and try doing new things. And sometimes you can really salvage your day doing that, and sometimes just completely bomb. But it's better than just going with what you're doing and just bombing that way, because obviously that's not working.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think you can fish those areas, but I think sometimes you have to fish the conditions within those areas.
Yeah.
I'm flipping because it was high sun. Maybe you need to throw a chatterbait in that area and cover the flat. It kind of depends. Kind of want to know, what do you guys think the best $100 to $130 bait casting reel is?
Revo X is pretty sweet. I think it's either 99 or 129 price point. That's a pretty good all around versatile one.
For me, I would say the Tatula CT is pretty good at that price point, and then the Shimano SLX XT. Another, like, if you're looking, like, those are all three good options at that price point.
I've heard good things about the SLX.
Who has the best flip flop tandem?
You have to shut it.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it's Destin because I don't wear flip flops when I fish. So.
Yeah, I don't have flip flop tan, but I definitely have like a pretty crazy farmer tan going on.
Yeah. So I wear like these. I don't have them out here. They're you can see them in my videos. They're like running shoes. They're outdoor barefoot running shoes, and they got holes in them like Crocs, but they're not Crocs. They're like an athletic shoe, and so they like weigh like 2 ounces each, and they have like nothing in there that can take odor or smell, and if they get wet, they dry out in about 10 seconds. That's I feel like it gives me the coolness of flip flops, but like the maneuverability and traction of tennis shoes. So I do get these little dots on my feet. They're a little weird, but
it's pretty fun.
It looks like dirt. Stanley, what's your go-to plan on a rainy day in the north?
On a rainy day. Just depends on kind of fish.
Let's assume we're talking summer, right? Like not like early, like so. Like I would say, if it's not like pouring, I'm gonna definitely give topwater a whirl. Like that's usually if it's drizzle, steady drizzle, topwater, buzz baits, walking baits, those are good. And then probably like a bladed jig.
Yeah, I think those are all good. So like on the Erie or somewhere like that, I'd say more of like a drop shot kind of bottom stuff. I feel like smallmouths, especially when it's overcast, rainy, a lot of times they really are more on the bottom. Sunny, I think, getting moving around a little bit more.
I agree. I was thinking largemouth for sure.
Yeah. Well, they got two good answers on both.
My preference is to like rainy, cloudy day, and you have the choice. Go fish largies, and on those sunny, still days, go fish smallies. At least in the north.
100%. I mean, your best smallmouth days are always when it's sunny. I've almost never had as even close to a good days when it's overcast or rainy.
But I have heard when you go down south in like Tennessee and Pickwick and that kind of stuff, it's not the same.
It's probably because it's more current oriented, like them turn on the current, like TVA stuff.
That, and I think the shad are also a player where I think the lakes, the natural lakes we fish, is more smelt and alewives and things like that, and I think they react different in the sun than shad do. So
true, because they're more like an alewives, like a herring.
Right. Coy says, "Do you guys ever target other species?"
Yeah, I grew up fishing for literally everything. I still enjoy fishing for everything. I don't get to do it as much, but I mean, I grew up fishing for pike, walleye, trout, catfish. I mean, I still really enjoy fishing for catfish if you just want to like kick back and set a couple rods out and let them go.
Yeah, I do. I used to, like every year, we used to go up to Lake of the Woods and fish walleyes for a week or two. I just don't really make time to do that anymore. But other than that, a little bit in the spring, I fish for panfish, but not a lot. If I go on a trip with my family, I'll usually spend a little time fishing for crappies or pike and flay those up. But
I do like to food fish a little bit too. If I have
I guess when you're down in Florida, do you ever like do inshore stuff for food or
a little bit? Yeah, that is another thing I do. I get a buddy of mine is a guide on the Gulf side, so he does tarpon and then he does all the inshore. I haven't caught a tarpon yet. I've never went down when like that's hot, but we do like redfish, snook, that kind of stuff. That's
fun. Brian Waterman says, "What is the one fish that got away that you want back?"
I'd say the most recent memory is Eufaula day 2. I had another 6-pounder break me off. Probably that one. But realistically, I'd say last year at Oneida, I only had 4 fish the second day I made the elites. I had another 4.5-pounder at the boat, and it came off like when my hand was down there. So that one, it probably, I mean, I finished second. It might have got me the points, like to win.
Sure. Yeah, I would say like I think back to like 2001. I fished a state tournament on Gull, and I was leading after day 1, and then I ended up finishing second by like 0.02 pounds. In the day on a jig worm I had. I'm probably back then. I was probably fishing like 10-pound mono, straight mono on a spinning rod. Like this was like 2001, and just one of them bites and it just comes straight up and just flicks it. And it was like 10 minutes to go, and it was a keeper. And I mean, I didn't need much. It was just any little upgrade, I would have had a state title. So
the one that got away.
Yeah. And I can think of another big one where I had like a 6-pounder under a dock and he got off, and that cost me a big tournament. But that to me, it's all about tournaments and big fish or key fish in tournaments. That
100%.
Bill Batterman wants to know when the bait is really small, like little 1-inch shad, what do you throw?
So like a really small swim bait, a lot of times like a 2.8, 3.3. That would be one. Like a really, really small grub is another one when the bait's really small. I mean, even your Ned Rig is a great imitation of small bait. Like the small one, the 2.75, like the 3-inch, that one's going to be a great small bait imitation too.
Yeah.
Little finesse jigs too.
Sycamore, in the Midwest, Indiana, what is the most obvious lure you would tie on first in July?
Midwest.
It's a large.
Yeah, I know a lot of those Indiana lakes, they get offshore, but I'm sure you can still catch them off docks and stuff. I would say a jig. I'm gonna go with your thing there, Rich, because you you could bang some of those docks, but you could also fish it on some of the offshore structure there. And you're going to catch generally good quality tournament fish on a jig.
Yeah, I'd say that or a big worm. Like a Magnum shaky head, maybe. Bill wants to know, do any fan? I actually have a fan tonight. Thank you. Yeah, he lost a boat by 0.2. I've lost 3 state tournaments total by 8 ounces or less.
Oh
combined.
My gosh, it's terrible.
3 state tournaments that I've lost, I have 8 ounce combined, and those are both 2-day tournaments. So 10 fish in each. Any beginner bass tournaments in the Twin Cities, I would say, Connor, join a Bass Nation club, and hit me up in my DMs. I'll point you in the right direction on how to do that. Ballin says, HellaBass, what motor are you thinking about getting to repower? I'm not getting a new motor. You may notice I am not sitting in my boat. I am standing in front of my bait wall. The boat is at the doctor, and it's getting a replacement power head on my 200 Merc. So that's where we're at. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and help me pay for that power head.
They are definitely not cheap.
Now, what is a bait hack that you do that you are willing to tell?
Bait hack.
Yeah, so there's no boat here tonight. It's just floor. Just me sitting there. You gotta have something sneaky. You're an elite pro.
Like, I would say with frogs. So here's a frog bait hack. So I will put rattles in my frogs, especially when you're fishing a little bit thicker grass, just to make a little bit more sound. So I'll just jam them in the body cavity there. Like where the hooks meet it, I'll try to jam them through there, and usually they'll stay in there pretty good. But that's one little thing that I do to soup up the frog a little bit.
I would say the same thing. Like, I definitely do that. I was just going to show. I actually showed this previous, and Coy's probably going to complain, but I have these little steel dowels that somehow, I don't know if I picked them up or found them, but they're just little, I don't know, half-inch little steel pieces. And they fit really nice through that little hook hole because they're skinny, and they don't break like glass rattles, right? And then you can shove them in there, and it's kind of a dull, but they make a little noise, and I think they displace a little more water in a mat. So I definitely like it when I'm fishing duckweeds and mats.
There's one of my old live target ones that's caught a heck of a lot of fish.
Thanks.
I put rattles in that one though.
But I got like some of these old True Tungsten Mad Max frogs, like those.
I remember those.
They go for big money on eBay now.
Do they really? Every time they discontinue something, it ends up being the best bait ever.
I've got an old original swamp donkey that needs a skirt. Lots of goodies in here. All right, show us the bone. Texas, nastier the better for smallmouth. Weather-wise? Okay, guessing. I think Coy's saying in Texas.
Like Texoma and those northern places.
Yeah. Bill wants to know, T-Rig, how do you do it? Do both of you pin them? I guess we'd say peg them.
Like peg, yeah. Most of the time, not all the time. I'd say that's like something that's definitely not widely agreed upon, like with everybody. I think some guys are like never peg, and some guys are always peg, and you're gonna have both, trains of thought with people. I mostly peg mine. I'd say mostly because I'm fishing it in grass and different places like that where I just wanted to slide through there, and I want it all to stay kind of compact.
Yeah, I typically peg it, but I leave a little. I don't peg it tight. I leave like
about that much,
maybe 1/4 inch or something like that, little, so it can be. And I've been playing around with the ringed EWG hooks a lot this year to give them a little more movement.
Yeah.
We already talked about this, Bill. Depends what the fish want. Let the fish tell you, black or white. If you would have been walking your dog past my house, you would have already heard this, Bill. What's up, Michael Minnan? Thanks for joining. All right. So how far out is St. Lawrence, the next one? Is it 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out, or how far is it out?
Yeah, so as long as we have that tournament, we would start practice not this weekend, but the following.
Okay. So I think if this works out next week, I'm going to be talking with Ronnie more about fantasy fishing next week on the stream.
So
hopefully we're talking about this. Corey wants to know favorite Marvel movie.
Oh, man. I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm not really like a big superhero guy. I'm a Batman guy. Obviously, that's not
You're a
Marvel.
DC guy, right? I think that's
right.
DC.
I've always liked Batman just because he's like a real dude. Like, he doesn't have superpowers. You know what I mean? But Spider-Man's Marvel, right?
Is Deadpool an okay answer?
Spider-Man is Marvel, right, Rich?
No. Spider-Man? I'm not sure.
Spider-Man.
When I travel for work, I watch those on Delta flights, but I'm really not like a Marvel buff. I would say of all those movies, I like Deadpool the best.
I didn't get to watch that one yet. I heard it's hilarious. But if Spider-Man's a Marvel, I do like Spider-Man.
Owen says, are you going to the Shields grand opening in Eden Prairie, Minnesota this weekend? I don't think I'll make it. I have no interest in joining the crowds. It sounds like it'll be a cool store. I'll wait a month, and when things slow down, I'll maybe stop in. I don't think I want to go anywhere that has a grand opening right now. Like, I don't think I'd like going there on a normal, but then when you add the Rona on top of that, I have zero interest.
Yeah, I ran into some Rona while I was in Detroit. There was a empty Corona bottle floating by me on the Detroit River.
That's nice. We should be fans. I've seen Aquaman. It's a decent movie. I can get behind that.
I haven't seen it. I like that actor. He's cool. Yeah. Jason.
There's some good. The soundtrack has a lot of rock music. It's kind of nice. Yeah, it's got some good song. Batterman says, Destin, 5 river baits.
I love river fishing. Buzzbait, 100%. I would have that. Buzzbaits, jig, crankbaits, I would say for river, more on the square bill side.
Okay.
I'd go frog. And then I would go a spinnerbait.
Completely wrong, but okay.
Completely
wrong. Just kidding. Brian Waterman asked, do you fish a spot if you know there are fish there, but another boat beat you to the spot? And let's just assume he's talking about a tournament.
I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, like somebody that doesn't really know the sport, about like, what if somebody wants to fish spots close to you? Like, I said, well, there's really not like a written rule book, but there is like some quasi understood etiquette. So I'd say if you're far enough away, in some situations you want to be this far, but maybe in other situations you want to be that far away. So it's more of a play it by ear, and maybe you get yelled at or you yell at the person.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things you have to ask yourself. One, is this a multi-day tournament or a single-day tournament? How good is this spot? Do you have other stuff? And how big is the spot? Like, those are all, I mean, there's a lot of, like, there's no, like, hard, fast rule, right? Like, if this is a one-day tournament and it's a decent-sized spot and you practiced it, and, you know, boat draw shouldn't be the only determination on how the tournament goes, right? So, like, I would definitely pull up and be like, talk to them and see if there's a way you can work it out where you can both fish it. In a multi-day tournament, even on a small spot, I'm probably going to pull up and let them know that I intended to fish this spot, so that when I have the better boat draw tomorrow, they're not pissed when I show up there first. So I think there's a lot of things you got to think about and communicate. Let them know, like, hey, you know what? This spot's not very big. I just want to let you know I found it. I'm probably going to start here tomorrow. Don't be pissed when I'm here. You know, like, so.
I think it's good, like, at the Opens and the Elite Series level. I think most guys understand that. So you can pull up and be like, hey, do you mind if I fish here too? I also, like, I found these fish too. like, oh no, or oh man, I'm just fishing this one spot. Like, you can go over there. Like, I don't mind if you fish over that way or something like that. Like, as long as you communicate, you're probably not going to get in a epic, showdown. You're not going to get your boat pirated and you get in a fist fight like has happened before.
Sycamore wants to know, do you have any pet peeve involved with pro tournaments or something annoying?
Not really much. I'd say the only thing, which I'd say most of the other guys would agree with me on this, is having the meeting every time. Like, I think it's really good the first tournament. Maybe just like some kind of little thing for the rest of the season, unless some magnanimously changes. But I think that's one that most of the guys don't look forward to.
Yeah. And have they been doing virtual meetings for the virtual meeting at Eufaula?
So yeah, we did. They just did a YouTube video, and we just had to go on and watch the YouTube video about the protocol and staying away from each other and how the tournament was going to be run. And I thought it went really smoothly. I mean, everybody.
Was that a live, or did they just send out a pre-recorded link?
Ours was pre-recorded. Yeah.
Nice. I think that. I mean, maybe that will be the one good thing that comes out of this.
It was, yeah.
The end of the pre-tournament meeting, whether it's a BFL or a Costa or an Open or whatever, like maybe start with them, but after that, like put the onus on, like, here's the recording, here's the memo. These are the things that are different about this body of water. Like,
I just talked to a buddy. He's fishing Costa and Sandusky, Toyota series now, right? He said they were just like 200 some guys on a Zoom call. That's how they did their meeting.
Sounds awesome. Because at least a Zoom call, you just prop your phone up in your boat. And you just keep
yeah, exactly. So it might help for that. I think that's going to definitely help us, at least for this year.
Oh, a lot of times in the BFLs at a local level, guys bring their boats and park in the Walmart parking lot and just keep rigging at the meeting.
Yeah, there you go. At least make some use of your time.
HellaBass says they're not 100-yard rule. Not typically.
No, not a hard, fast one.
Most of the stuff that I fish is a 25 or 50-yard rule, but the only way that's in effect is if you are anchored.
Yeah.
And that usually is anchored without your trolling motor. Like,
power poles down, trolling motor up.
It has to be up and anchored to be that in effect in most tournaments. He says, somebody has to justify their study. What's the meeting about? It's typically the same old stuff. It's like registration and like 5-fish limit, 14-inch minimum, take off. This is how we're going to do it. This is the off limits. Like, it's nothing you can't cover in a one-pager typically.
Yeah. I mean, like the first one of the season, that's nice. So you can kind of like meet everybody, get the scoop. But then after that, it doesn't have as much of a purpose.
Yeah. Owen says, how would you guys fish a wobblehead? Do you fish it much? Like a biffle?
A little bit. Yeah, I do. Honestly, I was messing around with it more so this year and started catching them pretty good on it. But generally, I kind of fish like crankbait. You kind of fish it through cover. You fish it through like rocks and stuff. You want to make sure it's deflecting. Doesn't always necessarily have to be, but I want it to be hitting cover, like the rocks and different kind of cover. Steady reel, generally.
Yeah, so I think there's two ways. You can drag it and fish it like a traditional football head and just have a little different look, like a finesse football head, or you literally just bang it like a square bill almost. Does a camera in the boat change when you fish?
So I can't say for sure because I haven't had one this year yet. I just have a Marshall. I mean, they're taking pictures and doing videos and stuff, but no, it doesn't change anything. Especially, the Marshall. I've had really good Marshall experiences. My guys have been super cool, taking lots of videos and photos and really just trying to make my day better. It's been really cool.
I will say, on a different level, when I have the GoPros running and I'm trying to make something that I plan on creating content for, there is an to recording yourself because you feel like if you're going through the effort of setting things up, you kind of want to catch them.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's honestly kind of bad luck a little bit. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm not gonna run it, and then I'll end up like something cool happen. Like, dang it, why didn't I run the GoPro?
Yeah. So that's a good segue, I guess. You have like tried to step up your YouTube a little bit. It's trying to roll out more content. What is kind of your objective for your YouTube channel, and what's it called?
So it's just my name. It's just Destin Demarion Fishing. But really the objective is just try to help share some of the things that I know, share my passion for fishing, to help educate people that want to know more about bass fishing in general. And I mean, really follow the lead of people that what kind of content you want. I mean, I've got a lot of requests for things. I've been a little bit slow on getting some of them out. I'm going to get them out here soon, but I've just been super busy, and hopefully this week I can crank out some more good stuff.
Yeah. So I know you've done kind of like a little bit of a preview to elite, kind of your pre-practice, pre-scouting. I remember seeing one of those videos. So it's kind of a little bit more like in the life of the Elite Series angler. And I know you featured some of the stuff you do with your sponsor Dirt Edge, and how you go to these ball fields and you cook brats and stuff with the guys. Yeah. Doing that as much now with the things where things are going, but
yeah, exactly. I'll probably get sued if I get COVID and somebody gets sick or something. I probably don't want to do that. But yeah, I did. I mean, for the last 2 years up until this year, I was doing a ton of those. I mean, I was taking customers out fishing on the boat all over the country, in South Florida to North California to Maine, everywhere in between. So it's been cool. I've got to travel a lot, got to see a lot of country that I haven't been out west much, so that was neat last year. And get to visit a lot of our customers who are just really down to earth, cool dudes. You know, like hanging out with them and like following their seasons too, because I mean they've got a heck of a job taking care of those fields, you know, for the pro guys and the high level college stuff. So it's cool to see how similar our lives are and how busy and how kind of married you are to what you're doing.
Sure. Did you fish out west?
I did. We went to the Delta,
nice.
Which was insanely cool. Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Did you have somebody else's boat? Did you drag your boat out there?
I trucked mine the whole way out there.
Wow.
I visited customers the whole way out, and then I made a trip out there. Went to Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego. You know, Giants, Padres. Then went to Phoenix. We got a plant there and spring training for the Giants, and then worked my way back and made a couple more stops and took a whole month.
Did you stop at like Coeur d'Alene in Idaho or anything cool like that? Or
man, I wish. I had such a tight schedule to be through everything with a month. Believe me, I wanted to like take some trips up there. Actually, it was actually snowing when I went in early October through like Wyoming and stuff. It was like 18, 19 degrees there.
Any new baits coming up that you're looking forward to having in the lineup?
Well, the one that I was saying was like the HD dredger, so like the perch, the real live kind of perch looking ones. That crankbait will be good, I think, at St. Clair. Big time perch eaters there. That's probably the main one right now. I'm trying to think any other ones.
Of all the things that I've seen that I'm most excited about are the new sizes of the Speed Craw and the Brush Hog.
I saw the other. They have like a mid-sized Brush Hog now, right?
Like, I'm not. I don't like like ducks and spiders and all this crazy stuff don't excite me. Like it's like, oh, a new tool in the meat and potatoes area to use. Sign me up.
Exactly.
Sycamore wants to know like who are your main sponsors?
So Dirt Edge is my title sponsor. Dirt Edge is a infield mix manufacturer. So we do essentially dirt. We're pretty much the main player in baseball. We have almost every major league team down the way to, your local Parks and Rec. There's probably some where you live that are Dirt Edge fields. But they're the main one, Pure Fishing. So at Boo Garcia Berkeley. Shred Fin makes all the funny memes on Facebook. Have you ever seen those? They've got really cool apparel too. I mean, literally, I could go on for a long time. I mean, how long? There's like 10 or 11. So we got those one. Centimark Corporation's roofing company. They've been with me for a long time. We've got Fish Sense, makes great blade bait. Vinsky, love that one. I've been using those forever. Got Gamma Line. Totally all about the Gamma Edge fluorocarbon. Power Pole's been with me for a long time. That's another product I'm looking forward to. I got the charge. That thing's pretty sweet. I think they're probably talking about that more in ICAST, but the charge system has been really cool for me. Oh, gosh. Phoenix Boats as well. FC Marine is my dealership over in Ohio, Fisherman Central. Probably the coolest tackle shop around. They have 77,000 SKUs, I think, at this shop, and you can walk in there. Well, I assume you can still walk in there now. I don't know. Ohio, I think, pulled back on things a little bit, but we got them. We got Gemini jerseys. I've been with them for a long time. And Owner Hooks. I've used them for a long time. I'm totally a big promoter owner. I love all of their stuff. And I think that's it.
Nice.
Oh, Amped Outdoors, lithium batteries too. That's a new one.
Yeah, that's cool. So have you noticed the big weight savings and like getting out of the hole? Nice.
Yeah, like there used to be times if I had 2 or 3 people in my boat guiding, it was hard to get out on planes, especially if it was bigger guys. I mean, now it's just like right out of the hole, like every time without that extra weight in the back.
Yeah. I kind of thought Power Pole was going to come out with their trolling motor at this ICAST.
I was hoping too. I was really hoping so.
They were kind of rumoring last year like it was almost ready, so I thought it was a slam dunk that it was coming out this year at the Classic. Yeah. But
well, like everything with them, I really think they try to make sure it is as good as possible before bringing it like mainstream.
So Connor wants to know if you could add one rod to your lineup right now.
764 Fantasista Premier. And the reason being why right now is because I accidentally broke mine in my truck. So I need my Carolina rig rod back.
Of the long rods, they're a little more prone to getting caught in places for sure.
Exactly. Well, that's my Carolina rig use.
For me, price no option, I would like to get the Dobbins Ecstasy 725, 7'2" power. I think that'd be a sweet stick. So
7.2, that's an interesting size.
Yeah. So I mean, I got a bunch of 7s and a bunch of 7.4s, so I thought it'd be just kind of nice to
the novelty of the 7.2 rod.
Yeah. And I think it could be like we talked about that, like I might get rid of my 705 if I really like that 725 type thing.
Heavy flipping.
For heavy flipping, are you a straight shank, EWG? Like, what's your?
I'm an owner jungle. 4-aught most of the time is what I use. But I mean, one of my good friends in Florida is probably the best puncher. He's one of the best punchers I've ever seen. I mean, he's like Elite Series level, top level puncher. Like that's his thing. And he tries all of them, and he's straightened out pretty much every single flipping hook. He has to straighten that sucker out. So I will go with this one.
Is it jungle a straight shank?
It is a straight shank. Yep, it's got a little keeper on the back. Help your bait stay on.
Are you a snell guy or what's your knot?
I am a double snell guy.
Okay.
So double the loop, do the snell, not same thing as you do. And I just feel like I've never broken it. It's not slipped on me if you tie a good knot, and it helps it not like helps hook them in the top of the mouth a little better.
We've talked a lot about that on the streams, and I feel it personally has to do a lot with your mechanics, and it's about finding the knot and the hook that works for your mechanics. It's not necessarily what's the right answer. So Connor says, what brand? So what is your setup for Braid to Fluoro? What brand or what brand? And I mean, I assume you're using the pure fishing, but which pure fishing lines are you selecting for your Braid to Fluoro?
I'm not a pure fishing.
Oh, sorry, you're using Gamma. Is there a Gamma Braid that you use?
So Gamma's got torque. I will use the torque 10 a little bit. It's more of it's like a hollow core.
Sure.
I use it like an 8 or a higher, 8 strand or higher for spinning rod setups because I feel like it's just smoother and cast lock easier. So I've messed around with some different ones for spinning stuff. So I use the torque for other braid applications, but just a variety of different ones. I've tried Daiwa J Braid, it's pretty solid, cheap. Suffolk.
Are you like an FG guy or an Alberto, or what's your?
Yeah, I'm an improved Albright guy.
Okay.
For sure. I think it's quick. It's pretty foolproof, and you don't necessarily have to worry about the slipping. You know, FG is the strongest, is the best, but slippage. If you don't tie a perfect knot, it's going to bite you.
Right. It's when perfect, it's the best knot, but it's not the most forgiving. Like it doesn't. Yeah, some of the other ones you can tie, and they're going to be pretty good, even if they're not perfect, right? Whereas,
exactly.
Sycamore says his favorite rod is a 5/8 glass, heavy. Don't break it because you probably can't get another one.
Yeah, exactly. I've never seen a 5/8 glass rod. That would be a nasty little square bill rod.
I think I had an old All-Star like pistol grip back in the day that was like 5 something. But cutting or needle point?
Oh, for the owners? I assume that's what he's talking about. For my special Ned rig, I throw the needle point or throw the super needle point on.
But the jungle is like a cutting point. I don't know.
Like the wide gap hook is. Like
sure.
They're just like wide gap hook.
Yeah.
I don't know what the jungle hook, if it's cutting or needle, honestly.
I guess I don't get that specific. Like if it's sharp, it's sharp.
I think it's like, like a diamond, how you got a certain amount of cuts and stuff, like however they cut it. Yeah, I think that's just the difference for them.
Cool. Oh, who's the best at casting on tour? Do you practice it all? Fishing is enough.
Practice it all.
So I think, do you practice casting off the water?
Oh, that's right. Okay. So casting or skipping, I assume probably like skipping, casting into tight spots, kind of casting you're referring to. I mean, shoot, my travel partner's pretty damn good. His name's Hank Cherry. Those Lake Norman, like Carolinas guys, are super accurate with those jigs around docks and pretty much anywhere. They can put stuff anywhere they want. He'd be one. Swindle's obviously another really, really precise, good caster.
So did Hank at least pick up the dinner one time when you were traveling after he won the Classic, or?
Yeah, especially at Eufaula when I didn't make the first cut, and he did. I was like, "You're buying dinner tonight, right?" Of course he did.
Nice.
And he tipped them like a crap ton. They were like hyperventilating. They never got that big of a tip.
Nice.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, I feel like Hank is a little misunderstood. He in the public eye, he doesn't come across as the most approachable, like charismatic guy, but I think he's a pretty good dude. I think I'm sure you see the other side of him, but I think under the spotlight, it doesn't necessarily shine, I guess.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know, what are you most excited about the rest of the season?
I'd say Thousand Islands. I haven't fished there much, and I think they're going to be shallow if we get to fish it. They're going to be both, but I think I'll be able to fish shallow and catch them, which would be sweet. Yeah, it's just beautiful up there.
Yeah. I don't know, do you fish any of the natural lakes in Florida? I guess he wants to know, like, how do you break them down when everything looks amazing? And maybe natural John's too, but
Okeechobee's natural.
Yeah.
They've dammed up a lot of these places. They essentially are natural.
Right.
Yeah, I fish Okeechobee, I fish Toho, Harris Chain, all that.
So what would you say, like, top keep, like when you're trying to break down and there's just reed heads and like everything for everywhere, like what are some key things to look for?
That's a good one. The biggest thing in Florida, and this is one of the things the guys in Florida, they really don't need electronics. Certain places you do in Florida, you use the end of your rod. That's going to tell you a lot about where you're fishing. The bottom composition is really key. So you've got, you know, stretches of reeds that go tons and tons of miles, like on a place like Okeechobee. But if the bottom's mushy and crappy, if it's not a hard bottom, generally they're not going to be there, at least not in good numbers. So using the end of your rod, kind of feeling if it's a hard bottom, that's probably the main thing. If I had to pick one, really.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is look for where things come together, where pads meet reeds, where
transitions,
or where you've got multiple good things coming together in an area. That's also a place to start for sure.
Water clarity is another one too, especially in Florida.
But that can change every day. So.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of times when it's not clear in the area that you're catching them in, you're not going to catch them.
Well, that's some of that is like certain areas are never clear, and you got to just chalk those up. And then other ones are like it comes and goes. So
it's wind derived a lot of times. Like if the wind pushes a lot of muddy water in an area, it can ruin your best spot.
I don't know if you use any of the ringed EWGs, but I like tying a double San Diego jam knot on those with fluorocarbon, Palomar with braid. But
it sounds like a fancy peanut butter and jelly sandwich. San Diego jam, double San Diego jam.
Well, cool. Well, I think, Destin, we've kept you up late enough. You're on the East Coast. This has been a ton of fun. I wish you the luck on the rest of the season. I'd like to hopefully this northern swing and get yourself up in the points so that you can brace yourself for Santee Cooper in the fall. And
yeah, that one is going to be challenging for sure.
Yeah. So, it's been great. Thanks for making the time. You guys,
thank you.
Destin, I think it's Destin to Fish on Instagram. I've got links to his. I'll have links to his YouTube and his Facebook accounts down below. And anything else you want to let people know?
No, really. I mean, thanks for the great questions. I think we had a really good, diverse, bunch of questions. And I enjoyed talking some fishing with you. Thanks for having me, Rich. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And for you guys that came in late, you can watch the replay. Tomorrow sometime there'll be a link to the podcast if you just want to listen to the sweet tones of Destin breaking down all this stuff. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribing. And as always, here to help you catch more bass and suck less.